Hello, Polaris lovers. I'm doing another little vlog. It's now, what is it? The 10th of March. So onwards and upwards with Polaris. What have we done so far? We've made some little props to be going along with. We've made the costume to be going along with. We've done a whole load of notes. I've been playing around with a few music ideas. What else have I been doing? Oh, I've done the poster and the flyer designs. I've written the copy, all the words for the press releases and other summarized stuff that everybody needs. I've launched the website and updated all that. Ready. And I've taken all the promo photos which I've used to make the Polaris web page and the posters and flyers. So why have I done all this first? Well, basically because I'm just a one-man band, as it were. Predominantly, that's not completely true, because I've got a fantastic director called Sylvia who's amazing. Couldn't do this without Sylvia and everybody else who's helped me now and in the past in whatever way. So when I say one-man band, I'm talking for the main part. Okay, lots of people help, you know, in all sorts of avenues: family, friends, audience. So there we are. Anyway, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Why do I do most of this stuff first? Well, it's to get it out of the way, because everything I have to do, it has to be in a certain order, because I know that further along down the line, when I come to writing intensely, doing the music and sound, and then when I'm in the rehearsal studio, when I'm in actor mode, I'm not going to have time for any of this, you see. I'm not going to have time. So I need to do all of these jobs early on to have them ready. Even though I don't need them now, they need to be ready. So with just a few tweaks, off they go. So the donkey work needs to go. So I've just had about 2.5 weeks of really intense design work and writing to try and get that out of the way. And it's done now, and I'm happy with it. So that'll sit there now, ready. So now we go back to the actual story, or more importantly, the play, what he's going to write, the adaptation. So I'm going back to all my notes that I've got here, and I'm just going to make this little vlog, this video, I think I'll just read through what I've got, and it'll help me as well to maybe have a re-look at these ideas. So if you remember the first video I did in this series, I said that I'd done a Sabbaton theorized timeline and a Polaris Bible, or a Sabbaton Polaris Bible, because it's for the adaptation, right? Now, okay, so I've got the timeline here, which both these two documents took quite a few weeks to do, but I'm pleased I did it. Because, as I said, Polaris is such a small, or short story, I should say. It's about 6 pages long. And it throws up a lot of interesting themes. And what I like about Lovecraft's work is that, well, people... Hang on, I always have these asides. People may question, how relevant is Lovecraft outside of a horror or science fiction genre? It's incredibly relevant. You know, it's not what we might call issue-based specifically, but it is the most issue-based in another on another tack. It's about the psychology of human beings, I think, and so it goes real deep. It talks or unleashes ideas of how we think about the world as flesh and blood, you know, our fears, how we cope with things, you know, And for me, questioning everything is at the root of my daft brain. You know, I'm always looking at things too deeply. Is there can one look at things too deeply? There are pros and cons. Let's put it that way. That's just part of me. It's the old academic in me, I suppose. So I look at something, I think that's not right. Why, you know, I've got to try and change that or work around it rather than saying, well, that's the way it is. Anyway, let's have a look at this. This is the theorized timeline, but I do think that Lovecraft is incredibly relevant. This timeline comes from just really studying the text and following up one particular idea within it that it might mention, looking those things up, expanding upon those things, asking those questions of why, and trying to make connections to other things where they seem logical, or even just asking the great if question, you know, what if, which is a great magical word. So you might ask, well, what's some of these things got to do with Polaris? Well, all I can say is it shows a process that I've gone through, and as I say, the process has come from me reading the text several times, asking questions, asking what this particular thing is within it, looking it up, and then expanding upon it and seeing how it may fit in with other ideas that also may serve to unwrap the main ideas in the story. And for me, you know, that is a questioning of one's own reality, if you like, and also one's origin. So I'm just going to fire through this. Some of these things are real. So I wanted to base or fuse together what we know or continue to know about the Earth and the Earth's history with what's written in a Lovecraftian history, because it's interesting when those two things are the same or pretty close, that you can kind of maybe shove together. More on that another time, perhaps. Right, no more flab. Let's get through it. So my timeline here with Lovecraftian history, contemporary history, and cultural references. Right, so I'm trying to bring everything in, banging ideas around. My general note here is that the Earth is approximately 4.5 billion years old, as we know it today, or as mainstream science sees it today. Now, in Lovecraft's day, it was thought to be between 500 million and 1 billion years old. That's the whole Earth, planet Earth. Okay, so that shows you there's an interesting point of development there. And you can also make slight adjustments to certain ideas as well because of that. Okay. So the first thing is a prehistorical period, which is everything from the year dot, you know, remember 4.5 billion years history of a planet, up to about 3,500 BCE. Okay, that is what we call the prehistorical period as we know it in contemporary science. So I've got here my number 1.1.1, the elder things. The elder things. Now I've put this around circa 1 billion years BCE. Where have I got these dates from? Well, I've tried to sort of, that was one of my original ideas, that I wanted to find out where the events of Polaris may fit into a contemporized timeline. So I've tried to fit all these things in with what I know of prehistory, what I've researched, and also what's in a Lovecraftian history. So just go with that for the moment, all right? Otherwise I won't get anywhere. All right, so circa 1 billion years BCE, and we'll say allegedly over all this. This is the Tonian period, the Neoproterozoic era, the Proterozoic Eon, and from the pre-Cambrian Super Eon. We have, in this time period, Rodinia, which is a supercontinent. This is true. Before the continents as we knew them today, there was a supercontinent called Rodinia, I believe. I'm saying here that, or proposing that the Elder Things, which is a race of alien beings that Lovecraft wrote about, arrive on Earth and establish their pretty much global civilization. They are the first ET species to come. They create the Shoggoths, another Lovecraftian entity, as their servitor race, or a sort of slave race. Okay, so we have the Elder Things coming around 1 billion years BCE. Point 1.2, the flying polyps, another one of these Lovecraftian entities, circa 600 million years BC, so we're jumping a few million years now, during the, I can't pronounce these, Ediacaran period, the Neoproterozoic era, Proterozoic eon, Precambrian super eon. The flying polyps arrive on Earth and establish themselves. They expand and clash with the Elder Things when they try to move into the oceans. The Elder Things beat them back, and from then on they confine themselves to land. They feed off the conical creatures that the great race of Yith will later possess, more on that later, thus creating their historical conflict. Next point 1.3, the great race of Yith. For reference, Lovecraftian fans read The Shadow Out of Time and At the Mountains of Madness for more on the great race of Yith and how this might fit in. So now I'm jumping to circa 266 million years BCE. I won't bother with all the periods again. That takes ages for me to pronounce. Now we've got something called the another supercontinent, because the continents form and reform, called Pangaea. So I'm saying in southern Pangaea, supercontinent, in the part that will become the Great Sandy Desert in today's Australia, the great race of Yith arrive on Earth, establish their civilization in a great city library, or library city of Nakotos, which means the city of the archives, and begin their conflict with the flying polyps, and also on a lesser scale, the Elder Things. So just as a quick one, the great race of Yith were these wonderful intelligent super beings who could transfer their whole minds through time and space into other entities. And that's what they did to escape their dying planet, into these conical creatures that supposedly wandered the Earth at this time and were the food source of the flying polyps. So when they took over the conical creatures' bodies, the polyps ran into troubles because they couldn't eat them anymore, because the great race wouldn't let them. There we are. Ah, dear me. This is a bit nuts, isn't it? It's quite fun. We're going to jump a bit now. Circa 240 million years BCE, the Elder Things create the Eltdown Shards. See a previous Sab Shed prop making video for this, which are later buried in the supercontinent continent Pangaea, in the area that will become England, or Hyperborea England, an area of Europe. These Eltdown Shards hold similar info as found in the narcotic manuscripts, which we'll learn about another time, which were created by the great race of Yith, and which feature in Polaris. Now the Yithians, the great race of Yith, create the first 5 books or scrolls of these narcotic manuscripts, perhaps at a similar time to these Eltdown Shards, which chronicle the history of the great race, descriptions of various other entities, rituals and other subjects. Jumping again in time, circa 200 million years BCE, this is the Jurassic period, the supercontinent Pangaea breaks up and begins to form our modern continents. Around this time, or slightly earlier, was the Shoggoth uprising against the Elder Things, who eventually suppressed them again. I know there's a lot of information here that may not be relevant in the final show, at least to the audience, but to me as a writer, this will be. And it's sort of, it's interesting and important because it lets the writer, the actor, the characters know why they've arrived here at a certain point. It's like doing, if you were doing a movie or a play on the Second World War and you've no idea how that came to be historically, you're just going in, reading lines and saying, more cocoa, sir. You know, it's silly. So not to know, so that's why I'm doing this work.